All right, we've talked about the different parts, meaning the plates, the cords, and the webs. I want to talk a little bit about bracing and restraint. Now, each of those planes, meaning the top cord, the bottom cord, and the web, are going to require some sort of restraint and or bracing. And for permanent bracing, a lot of times, the top cord, you're going to have sheathing, whether it's 7/16 or 5-inch OSB, half-inch CDX, whatever the roof sheathing, maybe it's purlins. You're going to have that across the top. That's going to act as a permanent. Now, that does not replace temporary bracing. You still need temporary bracing, and you can refer to that in the Building Component Safety Information booklet from SPCA or BCSI. That goes into great detail of all the different options there for temporary and permanent bracing, both on the top cord, but then also on the bottom cord. Now we've got that specified, and we're going to talk about this in future videos when we get into the verbiage down below, but I want to talk about it now. That's going to be your gypsum or your rigid ceiling board, something there, but also there's an option for typically 2x4s, 10 foot on center to be as a restraint as well. So that's another option. Personally, I think that's a best practice. I'd like to see more of that. It creates a really good ceiling. You're not going to see much for cracks throughout the life of that truss, but it is one of those that not always installed as long as you get that rigid ceiling across there and you've got that. So kind of the big one with this is we've graphically depicted it on the web. Now, not all webs are going to require bracing or restraints, but this specific truss does. Between the 12 and the 6, which we've denoted there, and the 4 and the 12, that web is in compression. And this restraint, and I'm very specific by calling it a restraint, holds that web in position. Think of it as a yardstick. When you push down on it, it's going to bend. That's what that web is wanted to do under full load. So we put the restraint in there to hold it in place. Now that allows it to share to adjacent trusses. But one thing that is often overlooked and left out are the diagonal bracing for that restraint. So the restraint needs its bracing, and it is not mentioned here. It's not specified because you're not exactly sure what's going to happen next to the truss or how the installer is going to handle that. There's a lot of different options in the BCSI booklet. I recommend you get a copy, whether from your truss manufacturer or from SBCA directly. It gives you a ton of options on how to handle that instance. But do know that just because it's called out here, that is not the finality of the restraint. It actually requires additional bracing. And that's one of the things we try to get across as much as possible at SBCA.